we mark the sixth year of the ongoing Digital India mission that was launched by Prime Minister Modi in 2015, we're also counting on the transformational changes that the nation has witnessed with digital technology becoming the key driver of growth and development. Hello and welcome to Digital India Vision 6.0, an initiative by Network 18 to track the progress of the program by speaking to some of the key architects from the industry and government who've been instrumental in helping India achieve its goal of becoming a digitally empowered society. Today, we're in conversation with E.S. Rajgopal, the MD and CEO of NxtGen Technologies, to know from him the need and importance of cloud and data center infrastructure in business operations and citizen service delivery. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajgopal, for joining in this exclusive conversation.
Thank you, Reema. Thank you for having me here for this conversation.
Mr. Rajgopal, in the last 1.5 years, we've seen the technology dynamics and the landscape dramatically changing. So businesses, citizen services are all falling back on technology interventions for operations and workflows. How do you see this unprecedented change and our dependence on digital technology?
I think one of the most important things that is changing in this in the current scenario is that IT was very focused on internal efficiencies. I think now there is a conscious shift from focusing on internal efficiencies to actually creating opportunities for the business. I mean, that's the biggest change that we are seeing. So gone are the days where it is fashionable to implement an ERP solution and people are happy. But I think what is the current agenda in most enterprises today, and especially in the government, is that they're creating new opportunities for the business. I mean, it could be even new ecosystems, new business models, sometimes even new products, that are being driven out of IT. So in my view, I think this pandemic has driven IT from being a cost center to being a profit center and actually contributing to the business more directly in more organizations than it was before.
Interesting. So the driver of digital transformation is no longer productivity benefits, efficiency, but rather innovation, which will open up new avenues of opportunity as well as revenue. Now, due to the pandemic, we have seen increased volume. More employees are working from home using conferences or collaboration services, and that has resulted in increased traffic on the network. So there have been unexpected demand spikes. So as a cloud infrastructure player, can you tell us your key learnings from the pandemic and the new opportunities that you could tap into?
I think the whole dynamic has changed. The reason being that it's not good enough now that we provide a good infrastructure which is resilient and it's working fine. I think what is more important today for us is to ensure that we understand the customer's journey, their priorities, and then adopt to that. For that, I think most service providers should actually learn to help customers build, deploy, manage, and scale applications, which is a pretty big, important shift that as a service provider we'll have to do, because it's no longer the case that we have much more. We have a lot of control. The control is gone. It's become pretty distributed. So in the change scenario, all our customers are looking at new applications, new ways of doing things. So as a service provider, the shift is to build, to deploy, to manage, and scale applications. So that's a big shift for an infrastructure services provider. And I think we are in that journey.
So how ubiquitous is cloud today? We know it is an integral part of business operations or citizen services. Cloud adoption has been on the rise, but how widespread? Are we at the stage where we are seeing mass adoption?
Basically, all enterprises are moving towards a hybrid cloud. Not everything is going into the cloud. And we have to make this hybrid cloud in true sense a cloud where, we add these three tenets of being on demand, pay-per-use, and elastic in nature. So what we're doing is now looking at ways and means of actually delivering cloud on customer premises so that he can build hybrid clouds with the same benefit of these three tenets that a cloud offers. So that's the challenge today. And obviously, so it is cloud, but, it is hybrid in nature today. It's just like, hybrid workplaces. So everything is going hybrid.
We're seeing this trend of multi-cloud being embraced. What exactly does that mean? What are the benefits of that?
I think the way to understand how to manage this is to find a platform that actually works across multiple clouds. For example, VMware works across all the multiple clouds. So whichever cloud you use, whether it's on your premise or whether it's Amazon, Google, or NextGen or wherever, I mean, you can have one unified base so that you can effectively use that multiple clouds and get the benefits from everybody else. That's what I need to say. Basically, I mean, we are already in multi-cloud scenarios.
So how do we enable this hybrid cloud, one in which you can meet all the three tenets of a cloud, which is on demand, elasticity, as well as pay for use?
The way we are doing is simply cutting out a small portion of our cloud and moving it to the customer premise. And since both are of the same breed, they talk to each other and the hybrid cloud forms. That's what we're trying to do.
So what is the reason for that? Is having part of the workflow on local premises, being done for enhanced security? Could you tell us, why is this being done? And you have 4 operational data centers in Ahmedabad, Bengaluru, Mumbai, as well as Delhi. Can you tell us how the experience has been in managing these services?
The compliance is becoming complex. I mean, especially it's not just related to financial services where it all started, but it's moving to healthcare. It's moving to everywhere where we are touching a consumer. So, so I think to manage compliance, I mean, you need to have a little bit of control. And control is what is driving adoption of hybrid cloud. Now, how do we see this happening? Is that, see, India is a fairly large country. I mean, yes, we have 4 data centers. But the pandemic, what it taught us is that it's not enough that you have planned a great deal of resiliency at the technology level, right? I mean, technology can fail over and all that. But the biggest problem that we saw during pandemic is that we lacked people resiliency. So, so suddenly people are not available to do things. I mean, and that's what we needed to build. So in some form, our first goal was actually make our data centers human-free in the sense we are not dependent on humans. But I think what is going to happen is that we want to build this infrastructure in many more places so that, a customer has a pretty close access.
We've also seen an increase in cloud adoption by small as well as medium enterprises, but I guess it's still a long way to go. What do you think will be necessary to enable wide-scale adoption of cloud services by SMEs?
It's important to drive education to these SMBs about the benefits that IT could be used for. If you see, there are quite a lot of them who have adopted e-commerce, right? I mean, but so in that sense, they are able to sell online with a few of these aggregation platforms that are available. But I think the more important thing is that the SMBs should be able to build products using IT. I think they can start with simple things like inventory management, which is one of the reasons why they don't make good deal of money, because large companies manage their inventories very tightly, and I don't see that happening in let's say a retail store very well, or even in a pharmacy. So this is where SMB needs to understand where cloud can help. So there are so many softwares available as a service that these SMBs should start looking at leveraging to actually look at solving their business problems. And that starts with a little bit of education as to these are the problems that typically you would have, because most of the people sometimes don't notice it. So a lot more education on the business side of it, and actually ensuring that they have the tools to actually manage those problems that are highlighted in that. So so the way we are engaging with an SMB is that we are trying to build a large channel partner base. I mean, our target is 2,000. We have about 900 plus right now. But the thought process is to have a conversation in terms of enabling their business, starting, let's say, with an inventory management to accounting to product development finally, not just participate in a e-commerce platform. So that's not IT. IT is you should be able to leverage it for better things than just participate in e-commerce.
So looking to double your channel partners and to provide them the truest form of a hybrid cloud experience, as you pointed out, it is necessary for you to have data centers locally. You already have 4 of them. Could you walk us through what your expansion plans are?
The way we envisage our infrastructure growing is that our current plan is to increase this 4 locations to 14, because India has more than 14 cities, which are bigger than many countries in terms of GDP. So they should have their own cloud infrastructure. And we are complementing that with 236 locations of edge, which is basically, far more remote. I mean, perhaps in the future, all the 645 districts in the country would have cloud infrastructure from us or from somebody else. But when that happens, suddenly the things that you can do with IT dramatically changes. What with this edge and this spread out infrastructure does is it just de-risks this location-based problems that we faced, and actually make it possible to have new possibilities where you actually move applications closer to data rather than bringing data from remote places in India all the way up to a central location in Mumbai or Bangalore. So that's our thought process. Our thought process is to spread this out, spread it deep. Hopefully, if it's possible, I mean, we want to be there in every district in the country. But the current plan is 4 to 14 in terms of cloud infrastructure, and add 236 edge locations.
Fairly expansive plans, Mr. Rajgopal. Just to understand the business opportunity, how big is the data outsourcing market today? At what rate is it growing?
It's very difficult to quantify the data explosion, but you must understand that the 90% of the data is actually not in the data center. So see, when we were running businesses, IT for businesses, the data was actually getting accumulated in the data center. But what has happened now is that the data is actually getting accumulated at the user end. And most of the data is there, and he's trying to use that data, and we need to facilitate that. So the paradigm shift is that the 90% of the data is actually outside the data center. So the amount of data that is there and how it's explosively growing, while people, I mean, put zettabytes and all that, but, it's just very difficult to fathom. But as our mobile consumption grows up, I mean, as the connectivity improves, more people are adopting smartphones, and more content is being created. So it's just exponential. I mean, we should not just, I mean, it's not possible to actually build IT infrastructure in the same exponential way data is growing. You need to leverage that end device. That's when we'll be able to serve this market. So it's a infinite proportion that we need to grow to actually be able to handle all this stuff that's going on.
And finally, we are celebrating 6 years of Digital India mission. Can you tell us what lies ahead to truly make India a digitally empowered society and economy?
India is always known for its IT. Their IT people all across the world, they're leading companies. I think it's time that there is a product that goes out into the world and makes it mark in the global scenario. So we launched a consumer app called Mine. It starts off as a social media app. I mean, it's still a small baby. I mean, it's growing strong, but it would evolve into adding proximity commerce. It will add financial services and a whole lot of things. See, what we've realized is that all the apps that we are using, they're actually doing 3 simple things. One, they're facilitating discovery. Second, they're facilitating interaction. And third, they're facilitating transactions. I mean, these are the 3 things. So the moment you are able to abstract these 3 things, almost every use case can be facilitated through a system. So our goal is actually understanding these 3 tenets, which is discovery, interaction, and transaction. And the moment we are able to do that with the technology, we can actually do everything that a consumer expects to do with his smartphone. So hopefully our contribution should be that, we build a product for the world. And I sincerely hope it is Mine, which is the app that we've launched a few days back. It gets us there. If Mine doesn't get there, we will make another attempt, but we will continue to make an attempt to make a mark in the global space.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajgopal, for being on the show, sharing your views and insights on India's digital journey and talking about the potential of data centers and why cloud infrastructure is a vital building block for India's digital ecosystem.